just as a reminder, we should not look like new people. This is Joe, I'm Elisha. We presented the collaboration training, oh my goodness, what, a year?
Been more than
2 years ago?
2 years at least.
No, I think it's been 2 years. So we are back today to be your host for the collaboration booster shot. So as we move forward, just as a reminder of the outcomes of the student service training, right? We've already been able to identify all 6 of the outcomes, but it's more than that. We wanted to create training that you could participate in that centers around that culture of customer service, ensuring that all staff and faculty, not just student-facing staff, understands the expectations on how student service relates to their role, right? Lastly, and to engage in student-centered behaviors. Remember, after we did all of these trainings, you went back to your units, right? And you did ongoing trainings. A lot of you created different activities as well as certificates that went along with, hey, I've identified someone that has exhibited positivity or empathy or communication. So those are all things that you should have been doing the past 2 years. I know in the Learning Commons, we still give weekly awards out that are centered around student service. Okay, so hopefully you guys are still doing that as well.
So one of the key elements to remember about collaboration is that we had talked about 3 things that you have to do in order to be collaborative. One is to be invested in the process. So collaboration can't happen with one individual. It happens with a group of people or groups of people working together to find new ways to integrate how they think, what they're doing, so that they make it easier and better for our students to be successful in advancing and succeeding in their objectives. So successful collaboration means that we have to do certain types of things. So we're talking about the kind of benefits of collaboration. So let's see if they remember anything. What are some benefits of collaboration? We've got microphones, maybe we can make them talk.
It said active participation. I'm just following the
Remember, it says invest in the process. Part of that investment is actually making you think. I know, that's a trick. So what's one of the benefits of collaboration? Thank you, Rachel.
Getting different viewpoints and different people involved in whatever you're trying to solve, or so that you're not just looking at it from one way, one person's idea.
Cool. And what's one thing that happens when you look at it from more than one point of view?
Your solution might be better because
Very
there's
good.
a synergistic effect.
Correct. Because obviously, do we all know everything all the time? Well, for most humans, we don't know everything all the time, and so therefore, the way we get integrative thinking is in order to work together, we get those different concepts and ideas. So the life cycle of a collaborative team, remember, is that you go through a norming and a storming phase, and you create standards, and then you go back through the process over and over again. Because obviously, since the first training that we did in collaboration, have there been new members of your team? So the team is never static. Collaborative activity is constant and ongoing. And it goes through that cycle, and you have to continually build and create new ideas. You have to have new consensus and new strategies of how you're going to solve problems. Because the things we're working on today are not the things we were working on 2 years ago when we first launched collaboration. We're collaborating in different ways, in new ideas, and the idea is to keep creating new things so that we then are more successful in doing our jobs. So what are some consequences that result from doing effective collaboration? So we already talked about better strategies. What else can happen?
A stronger sense of buy-in for the group members that participate.
Absolutely. So, as a boss, you can't just tell someone, this is what you're doing. You have to say, what do you do now? You have to figure out what's working, what's not working, find all the missing pieces, and build them together. The whole idea is collaboration means that no one really is controlling all of it. They're recognizing it's a dynamic process. Teams are dynamic. You have to work with all the moving parts, and you have to find the best ideas and distill them down. So what are some techniques that you remember from overcoming barriers that typically arise during collaboration? Anybody remember some of the barriers we talked about?
Humor.
Someone said humor.
Good. Sometimes you can't tell the difference between humor and defensiveness, right? Because some people use humor as defense. Sometimes people, of course, get very invested in doing what? Whatever they've been doing for the last X number of years. They do it the same way, and they get very protective of it, and they think if you're going to change it, what's going to happen to them?
They become obsolete.
Correct. There's a fear of loss. And that's one of the biggest obstacles to collaboration is this fear of loss, of being unable to maintain what they have and not recognizing that what they have may not be what they really need or should be wanting 5 years from now or a year from now or whatever period of time. So to that end, we want to make sure you understand those are the key wisdom elements of collaboration. And we're going to move on, I think, to the next element, which is our little activity.
Unfortunately, we're not doing Escape Room 2.0
I know. That's
I
why
know.
there's such a large crowd, is
Or-
they all wanted to try to escape.
or play with spaghetti and marshmallows. But we do have a good activity, and I'm talking through 2 microphones right now. Okay. So, what we're going to have you do, both online and at your tables, we're going to play a game called Fortunately, Unfortunately. So what we want to do is one person needs to be elected or volunteer as being your group leader. The group leader is responsible for starting the story or telling or talking through one sentence. Now we want these to be student-based or student-centered. So the leader is going to come up with one sentence that starts a story based off of a student scenario. Then you're going to take turns going around your table. The next person will start their sentence with fortunately or unfortunately. And so you will rotate back and forth. So to give you an example, a student comes into the Welcome Center and wants to enroll in a program. Then I would turn to Joe, and Joe would go,
Unfortunately, they don't have their transcript yet.
and then the next person would go, fortunately, and then we'd continue on. So we want to do that until we get all the way around the table, okay? If you are online, we're going to just choose a couple of people or just one person to be the story leader, and then the rest can go into fortunately, unfortunately. Okay, we're going to do this for about 5 minutes. Sound good? Unless we get done sooner. All right, so I heard a lot of great stories going on at these tables. Just by a raise of hands, how many of you tried to incorporate your unit into your fortunately or unfortunately statement? Perfect, good. That's what exactly we were looking for. Just a couple of questions. What would have made this collaboration easier? So everyone kind of went around and they had their own autonomy to add whatever they wanted to the story. But you really didn't know where the story was going, right? So tell me, what would have increased the effectiveness of this collaboration in regards to the story? Anyone? All the way in the back.
I think that having knowledge of all the areas on campus and what everyone does would have helped, everyone to be able to answer the fortunately and unfortunately situations a lot better. So just having that knowledge of knowing where to route things, basically.
And isn't that true for collaboration in general? Having a broad understanding of kind of role and their unit and how they play into the larger picture, it makes a huge difference in collaboration. So we were able to kind of mimic that within that activity. how about, typically when you are collaborating, you kind of know what the big picture is, or you kind of know the outcome that you're looking for. Do you think that would have made a difference if the leader started the sentence and said, this is kind of where I want to end, but I don't know how we're going to get there yet? Would that have helped? Yes? Okay. Do you ever feel like you are collaborating and you don't have a true sense of what the outcome is? Oh, I'm seeing some heads, okay? How many of you like collaborations where you have an idea of what the outcome is, but everyone is kind of able to be autonomous in regards to some of the decisions that are made? We like that type of collaboration? Absolutely. Okay. Do you think, last question before we introduce our speaker, do you think having a shared vision and good communication plays a role in collaboration? Absolutely. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and pass it on over and get our guest speaker up here. Can we get a round of applause before our guest speaker comes up here? Give him a good Franklin welcome.
So our guest speaker is Greg Gillum, Director of Student Mentoring. He serves as the Director for the Columbus City Schools program, brings a wealth of experience, knowledge, and expertise in mentoring and modeling the lives of young men and women. He came to the school district following 11 years on staff at The Ohio State University, where he served the football program in multiple positions. He served under Jim Tressel, Luke Fickle, and Urban Meyer. He was an integral part of the Ohio State success from 2005 to 2015, and he spent more than 20 years in the coaching profession at both the high school and college levels. He's a native of Plymouth, Ohio. He earned a degree in business education from Ohio State and a master's degree in educational administration from Dayton. Please let me welcome with you Greg Gillum.
Well, great. I appreciate the opportunity to come out. It's very fortunate for me to get a chance to come over here and pay back, because there's several of your members that pay forward with us. I think there's 5 or 6 members. If you mentor for me or have mentored for me, would you stand up? I want to recognize you real quick. Let's give them a hand. They are willing to give 1 hour a week to work with an at-risk student, and they've all been very, very successful at that in doing it. And you know, as we look back at the one screen that had those 5 or 6 components of the student-centered activities that you guys are trying to build upon, I'm excited because before even seeing that, I think I'm going to hit on 5 of those 6 in just talking about collaboration. So what you're doing is right on track or right on schedule with what you want to do. Now, I want to start with a quote that I start every day of my life with. This is to get me motivated during the day and to get me in the right direction. So my quote that I read every morning before I start the day is, have I learned all that I'm meant to learn in my current position? Is there still opportunity for me to grow? Have I put my heart and soul into the work that I can best be? Too loud? I told you I wouldn't need that. I'm a coach. I can do away with it altogether. Is that better now? I'll try not to scream. And then, have I reached my full potential? I'm going to use this quote several times today in my presentation. And for me, the one part of this that it's going to apply to you is the ownership component. So I want you to ask yourself that question right now in my current position. Have I learned all that I'm meant to learn? Am I the best that I can be at what I'm doing right now? Now, to start, I kind of have to define for you what collaboration is to me. I've always been involved in education. And in that, I look at it that there's 3 components into making a student be successful. And those 3 components are the school, the community, and the home. And you'll notice that all 3 of them come together in that one little area right there in the middle. And I like to call that intersection where they all 3 come together the radical center. That radical center, that's where we're all pulling together, we're all collaborating, and we're all trying to get better. Now, with those, we're going to put the student in the middle of those. Because all of us working together, all of those resources provide opportunities for our students at whatever level to be successful. And students are most successful when they are positively, another one of your components, engaged in school and at home and with the family. So what we want to try and do when we're talking about collaboration today is we want to align all of those resources, which you guys make the component of the school and a little bit of the community, and we also bring the family into it. We want to find a way to increase that radical center and give our students more operation or more opportunities for success. That is collaboration. So how do we make that radical center get bigger? Well, there's one of two ways or two things that we can do, and one of them is to increase the resources. Well, sometimes we don't have the money to do that. The school can't put any more into it. The family can't put any more into it. And sometimes the community is hesitant to do that. So we can't make those circles bigger to make the radical center get bigger. So what do we have to do? Well, with the arrows there is we have to move those things, those resources closer together. And we do that through collaboration. So there I've given you the premise for what we're going to talk about today is moving those circles closer together by collaborating in-house with the community and with our families. That's what we want to do. So what is collaboration? Well, before I get to the what it is and the how it works, I want to talk about the why. We always start with the why. After that, we're going to talk about what is it? And thirdly, we're going to discuss how do we collaborate better. So it's about a 4-hour talk. I'm going to condense it to you in about 30 minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Just stop me at any point. I'm not tied into getting this done at any certain time. So the best way I can illustrate this to you, my introduction told you that I was a college football coach for 22 years. I was a high school teacher and coach for 12 years. So I'm going to start this with a football analogy. And I'm going to do that with a play diagram for you. Just for those huge football fans, this play is drawn up to the right, but the last play against Clemson, this is the play, but it's to the left, okay? I'm going to see how attentive you are. So I want to talk to you about how a football team has to collaborate. First off, a play starts upstairs in the press box. We communicate that through phones to usually GAs or players on the sidelines. Those are the guys that you see that look like they're having seizures doing all of this, all right, or holding up signs. So they have to hear the play, and usually only one of them is live, and the other two, for lack of a better word, they're dummies, okay? So they're communicating. Sometimes it's real and true information, and sometimes it's false or fake information. Now that information has to get from the press box to the sideline onto the field and communicated to our 11 players. So I'm going to talk to you about how all 11 players have to collaborate to get on the same page. Well, we start always every play with our offensive linemen. They're the most important people. They've got to know what the play is, whether it's a run or a pass, which direction the quarterback's dropping back or rolling out, and then they have to know the snap count, and then they have to get their eyes up to see if there is a blitz coming from the perimeter or up the middle. Now that's just those 5 guys in the middle. That's the center, the 2 guards, and the 2 tackles. The wideouts, the wide receivers, the tight end, the wide receivers, the running back, and the quarterback, there's no communication with them at all. They just have to look at the sideline and know who's live, and who's not. And then they have to process it in their head. Okay, now what was that sign for this play? Okay, all right, I got it. So then they have to know where to line up, if they're going to go in motion, what direction motion is, how long they've got to get in motion, when the quarterback's going to snap it, and then the quarterback has got to check the other 10 guys and make sure everybody's on the same page. Now, if that all works well and we have good collaboration, the result is a touchdown. If we don't have good collaboration, well, you guys know what that looks like too. So, I forgot to mention, there's a couple other barriers that we have to overcome. There's a 25-second play clock, so we're under pressure to make all of this happen within 25 seconds. And then there's all of these people in the stands yelling at us and telling us how stupid we are. Okay? So let me give you the quarterback's thought process as he goes through this. So the quarterback's got the play, he's got the formation, he's got the motion, and then I've got to look up and see what the defense is doing. Now, if the defense is doing something that's going to make this play really bad, I got to check out. If it looks like we're going to be able to pull it off, we pull it off. So what this is in layman's term real quick, we've got a too-high safety look here, and we're going to read these guys to decide whether to throw it here or here. And that was the play, like I said, in the last play of the Clemson game. So the first thing that's got to happen is these linemen got to make sure none of these linebackers are coming to hit me in the mouth. All right? And if they're not, then I'm just going to drop back and I'm going to read real quick and I'm going to get rid of it because I don't like getting the backside of my jersey dirty. All right? So what the play was that the Ohio State ran was they were going to read this safety right here. If that safety stayed back here on this skinny post, then I'm going to throw it to the running back right here in the seam. If this safety jumps this running back coming out, that's going to open it up for this guy. So in the game, what happened, we had it all communicated. Everybody was collaborating. And then when Chris Olave got to this point in his route and he started to run to the post, he looked back and he couldn't see the quarterback. So he said, I'm going to go out on my own and do something different because the quarterback's scrambling, which he wasn't. And that's when he broke it off to go over here in this area. And then we threw the ball to where he should have been right there, and that guy caught it. That is a play that we did not have collaboration on. So now, how do we relate that to what we do every day? Well, we all have a thought that starts somewhere at the top, and then it gets communicated down, and then it gets signaled to us, this is what we want to do. This is what we're going to try and get done. So we're reading through that. Now, did they mean this is how we're going to do it? I didn't read that in the email. Or are we supposed to do it this way? Oh, and we got to have it done by the end of the month or the end of the week. Ooh, so now I'm under pressure. Oh, but I don't know what this department's doing over here. Oh, boy. So what we want to do today then is we want to talk about how do we get to the point in our day-to-day operations that we can score touchdowns. Because that's the easy one to tell whether it's this or it's that. Now I'm going to share a little bit of terminology with you that Coach Meyer used, and his terminology was, in order for us to win, we have to be 9 strong. 9 strong. Well, what does 9 strong mean? Well, I'm going to give you a little more of football terminology. 9 strong means there's 5 positions on the offensive side, 4 positions on the defensive side. All 9 of those units or departments or offices all have to be on the same page. Now, there was a saying that we had is with that 9 strong is it's the analogy of a chain that you've heard. We're only as strong as our weakest link. So when we're talking about collaboration at the university level, we're only going to be as strong as our weakest link. I'm going to give you, a lot of coach talk. Another coach thought is this: one unit cannot make a team, but one unit can break a team. So that takes us to the next step of what we have to do in collaboration. And once again, I'm still talking about the why right now, and we'll get to the other ones in a second. And that's the term alignment. Alignment, to me, is another term for culture. What's the culture of the organization? When we all get aligned, the alignment is there to help create positivity, another one of your key terms. So when we're aligned, we are creating positivity not only for ourselves, for our department, for our unit, but for the whole university. And we're trying to create positivity in hopes of, and this is real complicated here, we're creating positivity in hopes of eliminating negativity. Let me illustrate it. I like to take care of my yard. Since I've got out of coaching, I actually get to see it during the daylight. My neighbors all hire landscapers to do their yard. And my wife says, why don't you just do that? I said, no, this is my domain. So they get these landscapers to come in and fertilize and trim and mow and fertilize and treat. I don't use that. However, every year what I do, regardless of the shape of my yard, I bring in new topsoil. I put out new seed every year. My neighbors come over and says, Greg, come on. What's the secret? How come your grass is so much greener than ours? One time I told them, hey, it's leftover turf from Ohio Stadium, but they didn't believe me. So the reason I continue to do that even though my yard is in good shape, I'm going to continue to add positivity, add more dirt, add more seed to where I'm going to make it impossible for weeds to grow. That's what we do in departments. We want to continue to add that dirt, add that topsoil, add that positivity, not to try and squash out the negativity, but just not to give the negative influences the opportunity to grow. So we're going to continue to build up and build up and build up our department, our office, in hopes of doing that. So why do we collaborate? Why do we spend extra time to do that? Like I said at the beginning, because we are trying, we should never forget that we are all in a student, a people-focused job. That's what it's all about. So what we're trying to do by collaborating is we're trying to align all of our resources and move all of our resources, and I think I've got some of your terminology up here, whether you're a member of the faculty, or you're a member of the student-facing staff, or the non-student-facing staff. You all have connection and communication, which is going to lead me into the next thing, on a daily basis. Remember I talked about that positivity. Just think about how many people you affect on a daily basis just based on your positivity or your negativity, okay? Some of the most important people in our organizations is that first line of offense. The first person a student comes in contact with when they come into a building or they come into an office. That person right there determines their whole attitude. That's a very, very important job. So now let's move on. We talked about why we're going to collaborate and why we're going to spend extra time, and why we're going to be positive. So now, what is collaboration? Boy, that's a tough one. I tried to come up with a real concise definition, and I couldn't, because collaboration in one office looks different than collaboration in another one. But I will tell you this, when I walk into a building, a high school building, an office building, a business, I can tell within 10 minutes whether there's collaboration or not. Okay? So I'm not sure I know it when I see it, but I sure as heck know it when I don't see it. And if you need an illustration of that, just turn on the impeachment hearings right now and you can see what's not collaboration. All right? So basically, to me, Collaboration boils down to two things: positive communication, there's two of your elements, and positive interaction. In other words, the culture. Collaboration is the culture of your building, of your office, of the university. Okay? So, as we move forward, and I ask you, what's the common element between that? And that's being positive. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to that first question I gave you at the beginning of my talk. Have I learned all that I'm meant to learn in my current position? Is there still opportunity for me to grow in terms of being positive? Have I put my heart and soul into my work and be the best that I can be in terms of positive communication, positive interaction, collaboration? Have I reached my full potential? Ownership. Now let's move forward. I'm going to talk to you, we've mentioned the word positive. I want to share with you a little bit of my experience at Ohio State, and it afforded me the opportunity to do some very unique things. Being in head of recruiting, every summer, Coach Tressel would challenge us to go out and do something that could help our unit get better, or help our team or our coaching staff get better. So one year I came up with the idea about studying nonverbal communication. And I brought it back in August. We talked about it to the team about studying nonverbal communication when you do a home visit with the parents, so you can see how it's going, how it's not going. Do I need to change our plan of thought? All of those things. Coach Tressel was a master at it. I mean, he was fantastic. He could read it and change the whole direction we were going. The other guys had to work at it a little bit. So at the end of that first year, Coach Tressel said, "Hey, Greg, that was a great thing you did." He said, "But I want you to take it to the next level." And I said, "Okay, I can do that." He said, "Well, I'm sending you to the FBI Academy to spend a week there." I said, "Coach, that's not quite the nonverbal communication I want." But I mean, you should see it is an art. So as you deal with people, whether it's students or coworkers, not only listen to what they say, but pay attention to how they're saying it. Now, another opportunity that I have goes along with this positive energy and attitude, and that's this. I had a chance, he sent me also out to spend a week with the Navy SEALs at Coronado Island. Those are some of the most mentally tough people I have ever seen. So when I went in, the commandant says, "Well, Greg, what are you after?" I said, "I want to know how those guys are so mentally tough." And he said, "Well, I can give it to you real easy." We talked to them about their energy and their effort. We said, we tell them no one can have control over the amount of energy that you put into what you do and your attitude. No one else affects that. No one else can control that. That is all intrinsic. That's you. Regardless of whatever environment you're in, your energy, effort, and attitude is controlled by nobody but you. I said, boy, that's pretty good. That's deep. And I said, well, let's think about that. How many decisions do you make on a daily basis? How many decisions have you made today? It's endless. But here's where the Navy SEALs start. What's the first decision you make every day? Everybody in here, we're all in the same boat. It's not what clothes you're going to wear. That's right. As soon as that alarm goes off or your eyes come open, you make a decision. Is today this or is today this? And that affects the entire rest of your day. So, hey, I broke it down to you real easy. All you got to do is wake up with a smile on your face, okay? Your spouse is going to wonder what's going on when you do that, though, okay? So every decision after that is affected by how we answer the alarm clock. And you should see how those Navy SEALs respond when not their alarm clock, but when Reveille goes off inside the dorm. I actually went in a half hour early to watch. Those feet hit the floor right now. And there is energy in there right now. There is nobody that wakes up, oh no, another day. I mean, their feet are on the floor. They're scrambling to get their clothes. They know they have 2.5 minutes to get dressed and get out in line for roll call. So now we move forward to how. How do we collaborate? Oh boy, a lot of different roadmaps here. So what I want to do is just give you a checklist, and I want you to use that checklist to see where you're at in terms of how you collaborate within your department, within the office, with students. And let's start with this, communication. That one was mentioned already today too. How do I communicate with others? Is it of a positive nature? Is it of a negative nature? Is what my body says the same thing as what my mouth's saying? Because we've all heard that what you do speaks so much louder than what you say. Technical knowledge, as far as collaboration. Technology is wonderful if used right. Is there a way that I can utilize technology within my job description to make it more effective? That I can communicate with more people in a better way? Or is technology being a hindrance? Because if it's not used the right way, it can be. Awareness. Am I aware of what's going on around me? Or am I just so focused on me and my job? These are all hindrances or distractions from collaboration. Am I serving others? Am I serving others? Or am I expecting others to serve me? That will have a great impact about whether or not you collaborate with everyone else. We've talked about the positive attitude and what a difference that makes. I heard a coach a long time ago talk and say, if you knew today was your last day on earth, how would that change your attitude? Who would you call? Would you be smiling? What would be the words that you would share with others? Happiness. We're going to talk about whether you choose to be happy or not. That goes along with your attitude and how you can choose that. Am I trying to earn trust from others? Or am I an energy vampire? Am I just sucking the energy out of people rather than putting it into them? And then the last one that I want you to look at in terms of my effort, my ownership in what I'm doing in collaborating with others is, am I looking for new opportunities to serve other people? Or, hey, there's 5 of us in our office, that's all I can handle. I can't do any more. So in helping you to go through with that, I wanted to share with you, now that I'm out of coaching, I have a little more time to read. And this is like the 5th book I've read by this author, John Gordon. I don't know, has anybody read this book, The No Complaining Rule? Okay. The No Complaining Rule is, it's a great story about a tech company that's been very productive, but all of a sudden their batteries are starting to burn up. And then there's blogs put out on the internet that talks about why those batteries are catching on fire. The stock starts to drop. Everybody's worried about their own little world, and hey, I'm going to lose my job over this. And so they charge their communication person with the idea of how do we correct this negativity within our office. And she goes through several things that she's going through personally at the time and how she has to get focused on this. But one of the things that she recognizes is the amount of negativity that they have in their culture and in their business. I want to talk to you a little bit about the cost of negativity. In our daily lives, we are exposed to 5 times as many negative comments as we are positive. Just think about that. During your day, what do you hear more of? Complaints or compliments? 5 to 1. When I sat down and did it, I said, oh man, in public education, I'm going to say it's about 15 to 1. All right? And it's a good day if I get that 1. Okay? Also, the cost of negativity. In our U.S. workforce, we lose between $250 and $300 billion per year just because of negativity. Now, What's that in the form of? Well, 90% of all doctor's visits are stress-related. We have a decreased lifespan if we live a life of negativity. We have less energy, we have more pain, we have fewer friends, and we have less success. Boy, doesn't that sound like something that you want to have? Now, when I ask you that question and you say, I'm talking about ownership, if I ask you, who's the most negative person in your office? Don't answer. Oh, no. I was just looking at nonverbal communication. You guys just identified 2 or 3 people right away. You started looking. I'm kidding. All right. So we don't want you to do that. So we make a choice to look at life on the positive side. You make it, like I said, no one makes that decision for you. No one has control over that. No one can make you be negative. No one can make you have a negative attitude. No one can make you wake up and say, oh no, today is Wednesday. All right? So those are the costs of negativity. So we want to focus on how can we be more positive. Well, I'm going to offer up to you a couple helpful hints. The first one is what's called the no complaining rule. And let me read that with you as you read it with me. Employees are not allowed to mindlessly complain to their coworkers. It's going to get real quiet in some offices. If they have a problem or a complaint about their job, their company, their customers, or anything else, they are encouraged to bring that to their manager or someone that's in position to address it. However, before you can bring that complaint, you must bring 1 or 2 possible solutions to the complaint with you. Now, we complain because we don't have control. Doing it this way is old-fashioned. Doing it, oh, I've got a much better idea. This could solve all the problems if they would only listen to me. Well, here's your opportunity for them to listen to you. Now, notice it says mindlessly complain. I know we're not going to eliminate all the complaints, okay? But it's mindlessly complain, and who better to come up with a solution to fix it than the person that's complaining about it? I know as a director, if you're gonna bring a complaint to me, my first question is, how do we fix it? So if you're going to complain, you better have the answer. So don't complain unless you've got it figured out. So that is where we're going to start. And I'm going to challenge you, if you really want to get collaboration, we're going to eliminate the negativity and we're going to eliminate mindless complaining. Now, we do that with 3 easy rules to remember. These are the tools that you can utilize, put in place. Number 1, the but. So I'm going to complain, but when I complain, I have to put but in there and talk about why it's not a big deal. For instance, I hate to drive to work in traffic. Now, how do we add something to that? How do we change it from a negative into a positive? Let me help you. I hate to drive to work in traffic, but I have a job. I have a car. I have a driver's license. I have money to put gas in the car. Now all of a sudden, driving to work in traffic isn't so bad. And it's all about your mindset. All right? So the next time someone comes to you with a complaint, say, but. So instead of fortunately or unfortunately, you get to finish the sentence with but. I don't like being out of shape. New Year's resolution, I'm going to take care of myself, but I don't like being out of shape. But I like feeling good about myself, so I'm going to focus on my diet and exercise this year. So we're not going to complain about the things unless we talk about the solutions. I hate Ohio winters. But I haven't had to shovel snow in the whole month of January or drive in bad traffic and bad weather all of January. So see there, I turned it around. I know it's always so gloomy and cloudy and gray. So when people complain about that, which I hear it every day, oh, January, February, March, sun never shines here. I said, yeah, but you haven't shoveled snow yet this year. So that's rule one, is we're going to use the but and put a positive technique on it. Number two, we are going to change have to get to. So we're going to focus on the positive. It's a Monday morning. Next Monday morning after the Super Bowl. I have to go to work. We're not going to say, change that for me. Instead of saying I have to go to work, we say you have a job. You have people counting on you. You get to make money. Or the next one is, let's change that other one around. I have to drive to work in traffic. Look at that. See, it sounds so much better. Hey, I get to drive to work in traffic. I'm going to give you one more. I have to come to these workshops on collaboration. I'm kidding. You don't have to make me feel better about that one. So what we are doing then is we are just changing our perspective on it. Instead of being negative, we're going to be positive. So I get to do this rather than I have to. And then the third thing is we're going to eliminate those mindless complaints and we're going to turn them into solutions. And we talked about that. There are justified times to complain, but if you're going to complain, bring the solution with it. All right? So we don't just. So we've talked about or the why behind collaboration, the how behind it, and what it is. So basically, the challenge for us to collaborate more comes down to alignment. And the alignment isn't going to just start with the whole university. You're not going to walk back after a day and say, man, that great speaker talked about us all getting aligned and collaborating and being happy and being positive, and it's all going to work for the whole university. And it's not going to start just if you do it within your department. In fact, it's not going to start if you do it just within your office. It's only going to work if it starts right here. That we talked about the ownership at the beginning. So the ownership, the way of getting more collaboration and eliminating the negativity and aligning ourselves, it all starts with me. And I'm not going to challenge you to try and institute this and implement it right away and say, we're going to do it all. Why don't you start with just like take one day a week and put up there, no complaining Mondays. Ooh, Monday's the day I like to complain the most. I'm tired from the weekend. I don't want to be here. There's all this work that's piled up. So if you can master Mondays, you're well on your way to being able to collaborate. And then you can go Mondays and Wednesdays, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then before you know it, you've got a no complaint week altogether. So I'm going to wrap up with this, and that's where we started. In terms of collaboration, in terms of working together, in terms of aligning ourselves with one another, like I said, it all starts with me. So I'm going to end with the same question I asked you at the beginning. Have I learned all that I'm meant to learn in my current position? Is there still opportunity for me to grow here? If not, then I think it's time you look for a different job because you're never going to be satisfied and happy. And if you're not, then you're not going to collaborate. And you're not going to be the wide receiver on the backside of the route that you know you're not getting the ball, but you still got to go hard. Have I put my heart and soul into my work to be the best that I can be? And finally, have I reached my full potential? So I think the key for collaboration and the key for us of being a success as a university or as a whole all starts with me. So I want to thank you again for the opportunity. If you've got any quick questions, we can take those. But thanks for the opportunity. Thank you, Franklin University, for helping us out with mentoring also. Any questions out there? We can solve all your problems in about 2 minutes.
Any questions for Greg?
Any complaints for Greg? But, okay. Oh,
You're sporting some jewelry on your hand. What you got there?
I thought it too.
This gave me an opportunity to wear our national championship ring. I don't wear it very often because it's so big, but this is from the 2014 national championship team. And I'll leave it out. If any of you girls want to put it on your finger and take a picture, send it to your husband, and say, this is how big I want my next ring, you can do that.
I did that already. It didn't go well.
Anyone else?
Well, thanks again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Oh, we
have
got
one
another
more,
one?
we have one.
Okay.
I was just curious why you're not coaching anymore.
That's a good question. I've had that one a bunch. I was in high school coaching, like I said, for 12 years and college coaching for 22. And Dr. Dan Good came to me with this opportunity about starting a mentoring program. And when I looked down and I said, I've got more rings than I do fingers. I've been to the national championship game 3 times. And I'm getting a chance to influence a small number of at-risk kids at Ohio State. And when he came to us for this opportunity about starting a mentoring program, I said, well, Dan, who's doing this? So I can go talk to him and find out the do's and don'ts and what mistakes not to make. And he said, well, nobody's doing it, so you can make all the mistakes you want. So I thought, who could have a better job that you can screw up all you want and not get fired? So yeah, that was kind of the thought process, is because there's so many needy kids out there, and the opportunity to get a caring adult and put them in their life and help them navigate through their senior year and then also have a plan for life after high school has been very, very rewarding to me. So I appreciate the opportunity, and that's why I appreciate the help that I've gotten from here. Good question. Thank you. Okay, once again, thanks so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it coming over.
Guys, if you haven't already, make sure to find one of the sign-in sheets on the tables before you leave.
All right, that concludes our session for today. Thank you so much, Greg, for coming and speaking to us, and thank you for all of you for being such a great audience.